our website, as well as the recording of each of the workshops. And so um, thank you, team, for getting us recorded. So if you're just now joining us, again, welcome, bienvenidos to the Spring 2025 ELO-P Academy. We'll be focusing on unlocking insights, data collection for expanded learning. So today's workshop is intended to provide a high-level overview of all of the different data collective that happens for all of our expanded learning programs. And so we have two divisions from the California Department of Education who will be facilitating today's workshop. And so we will be spotlighting the different presenters, and they will also be jumping into our breakout rooms later. So jot down those questions that you might have so that you can ask them questions in the breakout rooms. And then, of course, if they're unable to get to your question there, we will do our best to stay connected and help get responses to your questions. So a few housekeeping things before we jump into the content and bring up our first presenters. We'll have about 65 to 70 minutes of content today. And so again, right, reminding folks to stand and stretch and refill your water and whatnot, because there will be a lot of content that is presented today. You will have access to the presentation slides on our website, and you will have access to the recording. Around 11:25, we'll offer some closing comments, and then we will invite folks to join in our interactive breakout spaces. And so again, it's a choose your own adventure. If you want to learn more about CalPads, you'll join that workshop. If you want to learn about some of the other data practices, then you'll jump into those. So we'll show you those options a little bit later. And then a reminder that our Zoom ends during our breakout sessions at 12 p.m. And so looking forward to connect and offer maybe some promising practices or what you might be doing in your community to support the different data collection in expanded learning. So shared learning spaces, again, if this is your first workshop with us, we hold our workshops as shared learning and collaborative spaces. So there will be a lot of resources and links that are offered in the chat. I just want to flag that our Zoom chat has security features where folks are unable to download or copy and paste the Zoom chat. And that's for, security reasons. And also there might be responses to some questions that we can't always guarantee the accuracy of. And so we provide everyone with a learning guide that we'll drop in the chat a little bit later, but it will prompt you to make a copy, and you can maybe answer or you can drop your questions in that doc just to kind of help guide as you're learning, as you're participating throughout the workshop. And then also on pages, I think it's 3 lists additional resources that are tailored to support folks with ELO-P and expanded learning in general. And then, of course, if there are key resources that are lifted throughout the presentation, we list those resources on our website as well. So we try our best to make sure everyone will receive a follow-up email with all of those resources, the recording, etc. So that way you're able to review content later as needed. And so we will also I will also present the material on our website, as I mentioned. I do my best to get it up like at least a few hours after our workshop ends. And so you'll want to make sure that you bookmark our webpage for our academies so that way you can go back and rewatch something if you have a question on something. So appreciate the SSEL who jump into the chat and are like dropping in ed code and responses and whatnot and doing our best. It is a community effort, so we appreciate your support and the collaborative learning space. So here's where you can go. You can scan the QR code, or you will drop the link is also in the learning guide, where you can access all of the workshop recordings from our 3 workshops that were offered yesterday and then last week. So today we're wrapping up our Spring Academy, and keep an eye out for save the dates for our Fall 2025 Academy. We haven't announced it yet, but that will be coming out soon. So you'll just want to make sure you subscribe to our CAN social media and newsletters. So, a recap of our Spring Academy. Day one, we had Tiffany Gibson and Heather Williams from our CAN team who facilitated a workshop on nuts and bolts and how expanded learning fits into the education system, right? And provided a high level overview, right, for folks that might be newer to the expanded learning community with a 101 and education funding. And we had a fabulous field spotlight who really shared some gems with us on how Fairfax School District is supporting youth and engaging in collaborative partnerships and supporting the students and families in their community. And so that was a great, promising practice in action, and we look forward to highlighting field spotlights in the future. And then last Thursday, Vanessa Hernandez and Heather Williams from the CAN team also facilitated a workshop on our strategic design for expanded learning about how we can be activated, how folks can join, and shape the ecosystem plan. And so, if you're interested in learning more about that, we provided an update in our CAN newsletter that went out yesterday, and you can also visit the website QR code here to learn more about their presentation. And then just yesterday, we wrapped up a really rich workshop from our CDE divisions who provided content on strategies to support attendance recovery, right? And so attendance recovery, or AR, as you might refer to it, is a newer program. And so learning how our expanded learning programs can support attendance recovery in their communities. And so thank you again to all of our presenters and for sharing your knowledge and expertise and resources with the community. You can scan the QR code and access all of our workshop recordings and resources. For folks that need a little bit more, or you miss us and you're like, hey, I want to connect with you again, join us in ELO-P office hours. Our next session will be this Friday, right? And then we will continue on May 9th. So you can scan the QR code. You'll need to register for the session. And this will wrap up our 2025, our spring 2025 ELO-P office hours, and we'll resume in summer 2025. So if you have more of those in the weeds questions, you might consider joining office hours. It's also a great place for folks to lift the cool things that they're doing in their communities. And of course, connect with us. You can scan our QR code that will take you to our link tree, you'll be able to access a lot of our key resources and current events, as well as connect with us on all of our social media platforms. And this bottom one here, I highly recommend subscribing to our CAN YouTube channel. This is a great way to be notified when we upload a new video, say a workshop recording, so that way you can use it for PD perhaps within your programs or to build your team's capacity. So you definitely want to stay connected with us. And before we jump into our content, we like to start with our expanded learning pedagogical methodology, where we believe every child, youth, and the adults that live, love, and work with them deserve just and affirming spaces and opportunities that enrich, empower, enlighten, educate, and elevate them. We know that learning happens in every context, and young people are assets in supporting their own learning and co-creating the solutions to the issues and challenges they face. Expanded learning and out-of-school time spaces can be cultivated by anchoring in some core beliefs and shared mindsets. We are rooted in love, and love is shown in our actions and our words. We are asset anchored and driven. We are aspirational in our mindsets, words, and actions. We are connected by our differences because that is what gives us strength and creates our collective. The appreciation of every culture, language, and lived experience is what we leverage to grow and nurture our collective spaces. We make decisions based on elevating the intrinsic gifts, talents, and wisdom of those closest to the problems we work collaboratively to solve. And lastly, we learn by doing, and we grow by reflecting on that learning. Okay, so time to jump into our content. So it is my pleasure to introduce, and I'll just introduce them here briefly, but they will be presenting kind of like mini presentations throughout this next hour. And so welcoming when it is their time to present, Liberty Van Natten, who's the Director of Education Data Management Division, Onda Johnson, who's an Education Administrator for the Expanded Learning Division, Josh Brady, who's an Education Administrator for the EXL Division, along with Andrea Shoemate, who's a Fiscal Analyst in our Expanded Learning Division, and lastly, Jen Taylor, who is an Education Programs Consultant with our Expanded Learning Division. So I'll go ahead and pass it to Jen and Andrea, who will kick off the first part of our presentation for today.
Great.
And
Melissa, could you spotlight myself and Andrea? We had to call an audible this morning because there's a fire alarm at CDE and Jen had to exit.
oh, okay. Hoping all is well. Yes, we can do that. Thank you for shifting all of that in behind the scenes. So Andrea and Josh, take it away. Thank you.
Right. So good morning, everyone. I got called in at the last minute due to this fire alarm. And so we're texting each other back and forth on who's going to do this. So I will be doing the first few slides of just setting the tone on the high level overview of data collection, grant attendance, and expenditures. And then we can move to the next slide. And so really, if you look at this slide, it really provides a high level overview for all the data that is collected with all of the expanded learning programs in California. And so the first one in the upper left, the grant attendance budgets expenditure reports. This is our assist grant management system database, where anyone that is an ACES 21st century or an assets grantee, this is where you'll be putting in all of your attendance, your budgets, expenditures, contact information. This is kind of the bread and butter for our staff, as well as any grantees out there that have funding with ACES in 21st century. The annual outcomes-based data for evaluation, this is something that we collect every single year, and it's based on the data is statewide student identifier data, attendance, and the continuous quality improvement information. Again, Onda Johnson will be talking about this more, but really this informs our biennial report to the legislature, and this is specific again to ACES 21st Century Elementary Middle and our high school assets grantees. The annual performance report, APR, again, this is only specific to 21st century elementary, middle, and high school assets grantees. Again, if you have one of these grants, this should not be look anything new to you. We have to report on this a few times a year. And again, it's really about collecting data for activity, staffing, participation, outcomes, and certification. I will be talking about this a little bit more in the next few presentations, but I'll be really focusing on the Government Performance Results Act. We call them the GEPRA measures, which is what is collected across the country for all 50 states and territories. And then really the new one that most people are learning more about is the expanded learning program participation. And again, this is statewide student identifiers, the total number of ELO-P participation days for each enrollee. And again, the submission is CalPADS, and the funding sources are all of them. So you have ELO-P, you have ACES, 21st Century Elementary and Middle, and then you also have the high school assets program. So this really, the slide does provide a high level overview of all the data that is collected and how it is connected and kind of what it's used for. And so that's what you'll be learning more as we go through this presentation. Next slide. And again, another data collection was the third-party off-site provider survey. And again, if you have ELO-P, you remember having to fill this out. The requirement is below that any LEA receiving an apportionment for Expanded Learning Opportunities Program in 23-24 must provide data for any and all third-party providers who are operating the program at an off-site location including the California State Preschool Program. So this is an annual survey that collects that data. Again, there is a link below, and you'll see it's just third-party offsite provider information. Again, the submission is using a PIN access code, and this is specific to ELO-P. The other one is the Expanded Learning Opportunities expenditure data. This is about just entering the data that was expended for ELO-P, and you'll see on the right-hand side the fiscal year, the liquidation deadline, and the final expenditure report due date. Really pay attention to these dates. There is no wiggle room in these dates. That's why they're posted. That's why we will continue to share them in all communications, not only with our listserv, but with CAN and with school fiscal services. So really, anyone that's over ELO-P, really pay attention to the key dates for offsite provider surveys and the expenditure due date as well. And then I will now pass it to Andrea Shoemate to talk a little bit more about some of the assist functions.
All right, thank you, Josh. I just wanted to give you a snippet of what our assist system looks like. Again, this is for ACES 21st Century and Assets programs, and we only collect attendance and expenditures in this system. But when you log in, this is your home screen of what you'll see, and you can probably see there are a lot of grants listed. The ones that are current fiscal year would be listed at the top. Next slide, please. Once you log in and click what your most recent fiscal year, this is the reports due tab. You'll see there's attendance and expenditure reports due, and you'll click on the blue hyperlinked expenditure or attendance reports. Next slide. And this is what the attendance report looks like. There are two fields that per site. There is days of operation and students served. And then at the bottom, you'll see a save button that will just save everything. You can look it over at one time, and then you'll submit to CDE, and that will be your submission for your attendance per site. Next slide, please. And this is the expenditure report. There's only one box per line item. You can see per what we have here, and there is a save button again that will calculate everything at the bottom for you, and a submit to CDE button. So there are really only three boxes to submit data for that report, but all those come through to us on our side of the assist system. And I'm sure you have heard, we are, this is our current grant management system. We are moving into a new system called GovGrants. And right now we're in the early testing phases for that. But we are asking all ACES grantees to register in the system right now. If you haven't got an email from either EXLD GovGrants or your fiscal analyst, please reach out and let us know. So all we're asking is for folks to register, and then we will provide trainings and updates and other instructions further down the line. Next slide. That's it.
Good morning, everyone. Onda Johnson. I'm an Ed Admin in the Expanded Learning Division Program Quality Support Office. This morning, I'll be covering the annual outcomes-based data for evaluation and kind of giving you an introductory to this data collection at somewhat of a high level. In this setting the expectation for our moment together, please note that unlike what Andrea just did, I will not be providing an overview on the how to submit your data to our submission portal. Instead, I'll be providing you more of a general information around how to consider what data you need to submit. One thing that I do want to make sure that you're aware of is that this is an important data collection in the sense that it's required by your grant award if you are ACES 21st Century or Assets grantee to submit these data every year as a condition of the award and to ensure compliance to that condition. So which means that this is not an optional data submission. It is required. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, you are on the right slide. Leave it there. Thank you. So there are components that you submit in terms of the data. And there are 2 reports that these components are reflected in. The first report is a combination of ACES and 21st Century, including CQI, the Continuous Quality Improvement segment. And the second one is for assets, which also includes a CQI component. For the first, for the ACES and 21st Century, there are 4 components: after school base, after school supplemental, which includes a 3 and 6 hour, which include 3 and 6 hour summer programming, before school base, and before school supplemental. In the assets, you will only see the after school base as an option. If you're serving a before school program using the funding that you receive for assets, you will report the before school and after school as a combined attendance into that, the instrument in that way. Continuous quality improvement in this sense is used to ensure that programs are following the statutory requirement for cycling through, selecting a couple of the quality standards each year, and to ensure their program quality, and cycling through the process to ensure that they are in compliance with this with the statute for doing so. As I previously mentioned, that the data is required. It's for our state and federal grants, 21st Century, ACES, and assets. The data is collected by components that you see here, and it is for the grants that are funded in your program. So if you only have an after-school based program, you do not need to submit data for the other components that are part of the instrument. Next slide, please. So here's an important thing. I mentioned that this data collection is for ACES, 21st Century, and assets grantees. We do know that expanded learning opportunity programs are also engaged in programming with our ACES and 21st Century grants at times. We call that a comprehensive program. There are not statutes that require ELO-P funds to be reported, to report attendance. So in the case where you have a comprehensive program, what you're going to do as a grantee is that you're going to refer back to the ASSIST program, the ASSIST data portal, and the way that you submitted the data into ASSIST using ELO-P attendance is that you would consider anything that was in excess of the funded ACES and 21st Century grant. So for example, if you used ELO-P to allow new slots or new students to attend, or more students to attend your program, we would consider that to be excess attendance because it would be beyond what your ACES and 21st Century grants would allow for funding. And that excess attendance gets integrated into either your ACES or 21st Century attendance reporting in ASSIST. What's important about that to note is that you're going to, in doing so, you're going to have a situation where you're providing more than 100% of your attendance by using ELO-P. And it offers you an opportunity to increase your attendance numbers in that way. The one thing that should be noted that this ELO-P attendance is only for when you're looking at a comprehensive program. For those ELO-P only LEAs, you would not submit any attendance into this data collection. So you're safe. You don't have to participate in this process. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the template. This is for the ACES and 21st Century. And note that there are instructions at the top of the page that help kind of guide to walk you through some of the data that is to be input into this data collection instrument. Again, it's pretty simple. The difference being that we are now looking at data at the site level as opposed to the grantee level, that we're looking at the student that the number of times a student participated in each of the components that are listed here. And just a simple reminder, you're only going to respond to the components that you are funded for in your grant. Next slide, please. Here are several resources that you could use that would help you to navigate getting to the instructional information that you need to be able to submit your data. So there are, again, representations of the instrument and instructions on completing the data requirements, as well as FAQs. And here on this slide, there's also the ASPEVAL website, email that is used to be able to submit your questions and get answers for anything related to the logistics of submission of this report. Next slide, please. Very simple and brief, as I said. So thank you for your time and attention on the annual outcomes-based data and evaluation. And I think I'm turning it over to my colleague, Joshua Brady.
Welcome again, everyone. Thank you, Wanda. It's good to be back here. I will be talking about the annual performance report, APR, and also the Government and Performance Result Act measures, which we refer to as the GEPRA. As a reminder, this only applies to 21st century elementary, middle, and high school assets grantees. So if you are a current grantee, this should not be new information to you. However, if you're looking to apply for 21st century in the future, this will provide just a high level overview of one of the major requirements of this program. So next slide. Again, just the goals for today, just a little bit of background and history on the GEPRA measures and 21 APR, and just really understanding what the GEPRA measures are from a high level overview. Next slide. All right, the provisions of GEPRA. This requires federal agencies to establish goals. And so under these performance measures, the department creates program performance measures, indicators to assess progress. In 2020, ED, they did approve a set of 5 new GEPRA measures for the 21st century program. And again, every single e-blast that we've sent out to 21st century grantees announcing when the portal is open for 21 APR, we have also attached the implementation guide. This implementation guide was really for state education agencies. However, ED allowed all of the SEAs to share that implementation guide with our own grantees because it really goes into the weeds on the data reporting, information on old GEPRA measures versus the new GEPRA measures. And so, again, any type of communication that we've sent out regarding this, all of you should have a copy of the implementation guide. If you want a copy and you're a 21st century grantee, you can always reach out to myself and Andrea about this. And, you know, this process, ED went through over a year process, engaging all 50 states and territories to provide feedback on these GEPRA measures. I was a part of many of these meetings asking for feedback. I thought the process went well. There was a lot of feedback on a lot of these measures, but at the end of the day, ED takes all the feedback, they make the decisions, and then as a result, the final set of GEPRA measures were released. So that's kind of the process that it went through, but it was very engaging, and I do applaud ED for going through that process. Next slide. Okay, so what is GEPRA? As mentioned before, Government Performance Results Act. We call it GEPRA for short. And again, these measures were established in 1993 to improve government performance management. They are required outcomes that are reported to Congress once a year. And again, I think it helps the U.S. Department of Education tell the story on 21st century. We have to imagine every single state in the United States and territory is receiving some sort of allocation for 21st CCLC, which is huge. And again, helping tell the story, it's critical for continued program funding, just like when we do our state evaluations or your local evaluations, right? You want to be able to tell the story about how it's impacting your school and community. And the same is true for this. The annual performance report helps tell the story to Congress. And I will say over the years, there's been a lot of bipartisan support for 21st century. So hopefully it will continue that way. And again, these GEPRA measures, they're not planning on changing, hopefully anytime soon. And again, ED, they analyze these data to report on GEPRAs to Congress. And again, they do an annual performance report, which is, the system is called 21 APR, which is a federal system. So now let's go to the next slide and let's look at these GEPRA items. So GEPRA measure number 1, this is about academic achievement. And you'll see this is about looking at the percentage of students in grades 4 to 8 participating in programming during the school year and summer who demonstrate growth in reading and language arts on state assessments. So for all these GEPRA measures, you'll see below there's a state policy. So what does that mean? So the state policy for this GEPRA is any growth in reading, language arts, and mathematics on state assessments. So as part of the GEPRA measures, ED puts out what the GEPRA measure is, and then each state, they call that the small p, is allowed to implement their own state policy on how this will be measured. All right, so when these first came out, the Expanded Learning Division engaged our policy committee at the time. That committee is now an ad hoc committee, but we engaged them to look at these GEPRA measures and give us feedback on what our state policy should be for these GEPRA measures. I will tell you, most of them are just any type of growth. And I think the reason for that is just all the expanded learning programs out there. This is a local controlled state, whereas other states, 21st century may be the only game in town. And so they may have different state policies and growth measurements specific to their state and grantees. Next slide. Again, this one, GEPRA measure number 2, still academic achievement, but this is focusing on the upper grades of 7th and 8th and 10 to 12 attending 21st century programs. And this is looking at a prior year unweighted GPA of less than 3.0 who demonstrated an improved GPA. Well, we don't take GPA, so what do? So let's go to the next slide. So this is a crosswalk that is in the implementation guide that really says how you can transfer, letter grades, percentage grades into a GPA. This was definitely one of the biggest commented GEPRA measures because everyone's aware that not everyone does GPA, right? And so there was a lot of comment and energy on this. However, at the end of the day, this is what the GEPRA measure was. And I think we all asked for some sort of crosswalk that we could share with our grantees because we know that not everyone does GPA. So again, the crosswalk will help you get to that for those upper grade levels. Next slide. Okay, GEPRA measure number 3. This is about the percentage of students in grades 1 through 12 participating in the program during the school year who had a school day attendance rate at or below 90% in the prior school year, and they demonstrated an improved attendance rate in the current school year. So again, the state policy for this, the small p state policy, is any improvement in attendance. That's what you would be documenting in the system. And again, when you're reporting this attendance, you all should have the data already because when you're do reporting in the system, you're looking at data that's already been collected from the previous year. Next slide. So GEPRA measure number 4, behavior. Again, this is about the percentage of students in grades 1 through 12 who attend programming during the school year and summer who experienced a decrease in in-school suspensions compared to the previous school year. So the state policy here is any decrease in in-school suspensions. And then the note is if a school does not use in-school suspensions, then there is not a decrease to report. So this is specifically about in-school suspensions, grades 1 through 12, the percentage of students. And next slide. And GEPRA measure number 5, student engagement and learning. This is about the percentage of students in grades 1 through 5 who demonstrate an improvement in teacher-reported engagement and learning. Wow, a lot of questions on this one when it came out. And again, this is when we engaged the policy committee, a lot of conversations between all the states, ED, and their contractors about what do you mean by teacher-reported engagement? And so go to the next slide and we'll share that with you. So for GEPRA Measure 5, Student Engagement and Learning, the definition of engagement is defined as strong relationships between students, teachers, families, and schools, and strong connections between schools and the broader community. And again, the definition of a teacher for the purposes of APR data collection, a teacher will be defined locally to mean either staff members that work in the expanded learning program or staff members that are teachers with a core instructional school day. And also, programs will need to conduct an engagement survey for this GEPRA item. And so we decided that for this purpose, it's any teacher. However you want to do this engagement survey, and if you want to just you have expanded learning staff do this, or if you want it to be a combination, we're really leaving it up to the locals. And so I know other states may do other things based on how their structure is and how they are set up. And so this is one of these ones that was very new. And here's the other difference. Some states, because of the size and scope of the grantees, they may have 50 grantees total. So they may, at the state level, do their own survey for programs to respond to. We're not doing that at this time because California is so big and we have so many grantees. And so that's just a little bit more information on the student engagement and learning one. And I'll pause there and go to the next slide. Participation grade level and student attendance. This was another big shift in the GEPRA items. And so this is about the number of students who were enrolled and attended programming during the summer or school year. You would choose the grade the students are currently enrolled in, summer, the grade level for the just completed school year, enter the total number of participants who attended based on the number of hours they attended. So let me say that again, the number of hours. Before, this was days, right? This was another big shift that a lot of states had comments on because a lot of states do days. They don't do hours. And so this was something where there was no negotiations on this. And again, this has been out for many years now. So I'm sure programs are adapting to this new GEPRA item about participation. And so, and again, we also did about a year ago, specific to 21st Century, we did a webinar on APR, the GEPRA items, and we actually had 3 grantees that talked about promising practices. And again, we'll probably do that again down the road. We thought it was very helpful because that way you're able to hear specifically from the grantees themselves who are actually doing the data submission. And so we thought that was very helpful from a community-based organization lens, a consortium, and from an LEA lens. And we can do that again in the future as well. Next slide. And again, this is a federal system that is run by the U.S. Department of Education. We have zero control over it. The 2 wizards behind the screen are myself and Andrea Shoemate. She does amazing work, reminding all of you and just making sure that everything is organized. All sites have been added and things like that. So it is a federal system. Also, there is only 1 user allowed per agency. So make sure that whoever is going to be your data person and whatnot, that they have access to the system. You are able to change it up. Again, there are many times that we get inquiries about, hey, this person's no longer here. I'm the new person. So all you got to do is send us an email. Andrea or myself will go into the system and send you a login and things like that. So again, we work with you. We work with our 21st Century grantees. We know sometimes that it can be complicated, but that's why we send a lot of reminder emails. We've done webinars in the past specific to 21 APR. And again, for those that are looking to apply, this is one of the major requirements with 21st Century. And again, look forward to answering any questions for those that join the breakout room for 21 APR. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think that it's now my turn. Good morning, everyone. My name is Liberty Van Natten. I am the director of the Education Data Management Division. We call ourselves EDMD here at the Department of Education. EDMD is responsible for a number of student and school level data collection systems. Our biggest data collection system by far is known as CalPads. So today I'm going to go into a little bit of background on CalPads, as well as this new collection requirement that is coming for CalPads related to expanded learning programs. So for those of you that don't know, CalPads stands for, it's a mouthful, the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System. As you can tell, we like to call it CalPads. But CalPads has a number of different data collections. We've listed those broadly in the list on the left on the screen. And these data are really used for a number of different purposes. So because CalPads is a longitudinal data system, we are able to track students over time. That's really awesome and exciting. So it allows the data from CalPads to be used to calculate most of the indicators on the California School Dashboard. The data are also used to fulfill state and federal reporting requirements. So we're killing a lot of birds with this one stone of CalPads. Most importantly, the data collected in CalPads, they really are meant and do provide information about students and schools to a variety of folks. So we have our legislators, broadly speaking, state decision makers. We have parents, community members, researchers, and educators as a whole. So CalPads is a very big system. I believe it's the largest K-12 SLDS in the country. Next slide, please. So there are a lot of different types of data collected in CalPads. So in addition to those collections that were listed on the other slide, some of these types of data do align directly with that list of collections. But broadly speaking, we collect information on demographics of our kids, many of the programs that they participate in. CalPads is used to identify and track students' English language acquisition status, information about students' disabilities. We collect information about student enrollments and exits in schools, information on student absenteeism and behavior incidents. We also collect information on the courses that students are enrolled in on Census Day and the certificated staff who teach those courses. We collect information on the courses students complete throughout the year. And we collect information about career technical education as well as work-based learning. So we have a lot of different buckets of data types that come into CalPads. Next slide. So when we talk about this large system of CalPads and the work that we do, we often say that it takes a village. So as I mentioned earlier, CalPads is the largest TK through 12 longitudinal data system in the country. So in order to make it work, it is supported by two different divisions within the Department of Education. So my division, the Education Data Management Division, we have the CalPads office and the Student and School Data Office who support the system. We also have the Technology Services Division, which has a specific CalPads support unit. And the folks in that division are really our data architects and cloud architects, and they're monitoring and managing the system daily. Our partners at the California School Information Services, also known as CSIS, they're actually operated out of the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, and they support the requirements, the information systems, and broadly the client services work of CalPads. So it's two agencies really that support this system as a whole. Next slide. So the data that are in CalPads, they actually come from a number of different sources. So the biggest source is our LEAs. Each LEA has what we call an LEA CalPads administrator. And this person is responsible for submitting data and interfacing with CalPads through all of the different data systems that we see here. So they include data which are collected at the local level. So that's our student information systems. Data that are collected at the local level through special education data systems. This also includes certificated staff data. These data come into CalPads and link to CalPads data from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We have a MOU in exchange with them. Data are also exchanged nightly with our statewide assessment vendor, also known as ETS. And this is to ensure that kids are tested at the schools in which they are enrolled. Data are also transferred weekly from the California Department of Social Services Child Welfare System Case Management System. It's also called CWS-CMS. Though that data transfer is so that we can identify from the authoritative source, the Department of Social Services, who our students in foster care are. And then we also have, I think it's monthly transfers, but I could be wrong on that, data from the Department of Social Services, from CalFresh and CalWorks. And these data are for direct certification as part of the school lunch program that we have in California, as well as the National School Lunch Program. Next slide. So some of this information I'm going to share now is really a little bit of overlap into what others have said, but I think it's important to hear it many times because there's a lot of whys by by this change that we are going to be implementing. And the biggest why is that it all kind of started with AB 113. So we are expanding CalPads to begin collecting this expanded learning program information. And that was all because of AB 113. It was passed, I think, in 2024. It requires us to collect data on student enrollment and participation in any of the expanded learning programs. So it can be ELO-P, ACES, or 21st century expanded learning programs. So this collection is, broadly speaking, if kids were in any one of those. This is slated to begin for the 25-26 school year. So for LEAs that receive funding for any of the ELPs, they will submit student-level ELP data to CalPads as part of our end-of-year, we also call it EOY submission. So it's important to note that LEAs that receive funding for any of these programs will not be able to certify their end-of-year 3 data if they don't submit these ELP data. So there's a requirement and expectation that LEAs will be submitting these data if they're receiving funds. Within CalPads, LEAs will be able to generate a report, and they're going to be able to look at the total number of kids by the LEA who registered or enrolled in an ELP program, as well as the total count of days that each kid attended the program within the calendar year. So that's our calendar years, July 1 to June 30. Next slide. So the requirements for this new ELP data collection are listed here, and they're as follows. This is there. I think I have 3 slides on this requirements, but first is that LEAs will submit a new LEA program, or we're calling it LEAP program or LEAP file, to CalPads. And this includes each student who was enrolled in an ELP. So enrolled is defined in California Education Code. And so we've used that definition, and it's any student whose parents or guardians or guardian signed an expanded learning program registration form. Next slide. Additionally, for any of those kids that were enrolled in an ELP, LEAs will also submit the total number of days that a student attended an ELP at the LEA within the academic year. So a day is reported. I see a question in the chat, and I think this is going to answer it. So a day is reported for any day a student attended any of the expanded learning programs. So one day is broadly defined as any part of a day. So if a kid attends in the morning and the afternoon of the same day, that is, sorry, my screen went blank for a second. Where am I? Okay. If they went in the morning and in the afternoon, that's just counted as one day. If a kiddo attends for 5 minutes, it's counted as one day. Next slide, please. So, and finally, in order to meet our CalPADS reporting requirements, each LEA must collect or receive from their expanded learning vendor the following information for each student enrolled in their LEA. So they need to collect or know the SSID or statewide student identifier, or a local identifier of the kiddo, and the total number of days the student attended within that academic year. So for students who may be enrolled, their parents signed that form, but they never attended an ELP, the number of days for that kiddo would be 0. And this actually will provide interesting data. So it might tell us, further out, like how many kids are actually doing an ELP as opposed to just signing that form. And so it's going to give us some rich, valuable information at the student level that we've never had before. Next slide, please. So it's important to note that the AB 113 reporting requirement, it's not the same as the AOBDE data collection. The AOBDE is a measurement of a grantee's fiscal year attendance by statewide student identifier across different grants and the funded components of those grants. AB 113 requires data collection, as I mentioned before, for all programs, ELO-P, ACES, and 21st Century. So the AOBDE data collection is only required for school sites operating programs funded by ACES or 21st Century grants. So this is more broad, I guess is a good way to put it. I'd like to conclude with some links to resources and some contact information specific to CalPADS. So the first link is the CalPADS webpage on the CDE internet. It has a ton of stuff. I go there daily. And I encourage folks to always go there for their information. There is a place where you can download a lot of documents, but documents change, as everybody knows. And as systems change and our documentation may need to get updated, it's always important to go to that webpage to get your information. So one of the most important things that folks can find there is the CalPADS calendar. There are communications that we send out specific to CalPADS. We call those CalPADS flashes. There's a ton of FAQs, there's listservs, there's the system documentation and training. And so that webpage has a lot. The CalPADS service desk email, that's the next link there. That should be used for CalPADS system users regarding CalPADS functionality. And then we have our EDMD CalPADS email. And this is a great place for folks who have program policy specific questions related to CalPADS. So I hope I've covered it in enough depth and not scared you all away from CalPADS. CalPADS is near and dear to my heart. I'm very proud of the system that we have, and we're excited to be collecting some information within the system for the first time on our expanded learning programs. So this concludes my portion of the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So just wanted to say it's been an interesting 45 minutes. There was a fire alarm and folks just navigated and kept the show going. So just wanted to say again, thank you to Liberty, Onda, Jen Taylor. We didn't get to hear your voice or see you on screen, but you did a lot of work preparing for today's workshop. So thank you for your leadership. And then also Josh for stepping in and like, yeah, I can step in with Andrea, no biggie. And then of course with Andrea and all the information that was provided. So thank you again to our presenting team for today. We have been responding to a few of the comments and questions in the chat. And again, if you did not get a response to your question, highly recommend that you attend one of the breakout sessions that will be opened up in a few moments. But a few things before we do that. So I have a few slides to get through. Again, you all have heard this before, but again, flagging that you have at least the web link and the contact page and how to connect with folks throughout our system of support for expanded learning. So you can scan the QR code. This is also linked in the learning guide where you can connect with the SSEL. Thank you also to the SSEL who have been responding to some of the questions in the chat and the support throughout the last 4 days of our academy. So a quick recap. I know I started off with the recap, but just wanting to add day 4, which is today on data collection for expanded learning. So in a few moments, we're going to play 5 minutes of music for folks to complete our evaluation form. But before you do that, I just wanted to take us back down really quick our academy journey. So that way, as you're filling out the evaluation form, you can kind of remember, oh yeah, I remember Heather and Tiffany talking about the education funding piece and the overview of like the EXL 101. Here's what I liked about it. Here's what I was hoping to get out of it that I didn't. And so dropping us that CQI feedback. Or perhaps you have questions about the ecosystem plan, right? With what Vanessa and Heather presented on day 2's workshop. Or maybe you want to connect with Jennifer Davis, who was our field spotlight, and you would like to share your contact info with us to pick Jennifer's brain on some of the gems that she shared with us and how she is supporting her and her team are supporting children, youth, and families in their community. And then lastly, if there are questions that you have or feedback that you have regarding our data collection for expanded learning, wanting to flag, right? This year, this season of our academies, our planning team were a little more intentional in connecting with our other CDE divisions in how we are all supporting expanded learning, not just ELO-P, but expanded learning in general. So shouting out our education data management division who presented yesterday and today, and sharing information on CalPads and other information that's key to, helping us with our continuing to grow our expanded learning programs in our community. So I will put on 5 minutes of music. Please don't leave because then we're going to jump into breakout rooms. But we have a little bit of wiggle room, and I want to make sure that we get your feedback on our academies. So you can scan the QR code. Our team will also drop the link to the evaluation form in the chat. You can click on it, and a new window should open up on your device. Where you can complete the evaluation. It should take no more than 5 minutes. And so I'll play some music and you'll have the 5 minutes to complete that form. And then we will jump into our breakout rooms. And so thank you again to all of our presenters. It's been a fun, wild ride supporting our spring 2025 ELO-P academies. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, so we'll just take 30 more seconds to wrap up any final thoughts you have in our Academy feedback form. Thank you so much for doing that. We think we got over 50 responses that just came through in those 5 minutes. So your feedback is valuable. Thank you for taking those 5 minutes to do that. Okay, so we are going to move on to our breakout rooms. So in a moment, I will be bringing up, or I'm sorry, opening our breakout rooms. And we will have all of our presenters from today, in addition to support teams from our Expanded Learning Division and also our Education Data Management Division, who will be jumping into different breakout rooms to maybe dive a little deeper on some of the content that they covered. They will also be supporting folks with perhaps some questions that you might have, but again, noting if they're really in the weeds, detailed questions, we may need to connect offline. Also, flagging office hours is a great place to also go to get some of those questions answered. And we will do our best to get those resources out to everyone via email and on our website. So in room one, if folks want to dive a little deeper on the grant attendance and expenditures that Josh and Andrea presented on, Jen Taylor will be in our breakout room with Andrea to go over some of that content. Again, these breakout rooms are not intended to be like a part two of their presentation. So it's not like another mini presentation. It's really an opportunity to build some community get some maybe promising practices on things, or perhaps some insights, share resources, and folks can also share what are some key things that you might be doing within your LEA or community partners. So again, it's not intended to be a part 2 of a presentation, but rather choose your own adventure to learn a little bit more and connect with folks in the breakouts. So in room 2, we'll be chatting a little bit more on the annual outcomes-based data for evaluation with Onda Johnson, along with Onda's team, Kindred, Jacqueline, and Anna. And then in room 3, you can dive deeper on the annual performance report with Josh Brady. If folks want to have conversations about ELO-P participation, AB 1113, and also CalPads with Liberty and Paula, you can jump into room 4. And then room 5 is a community share. We had a breakout similar to this yesterday, and we got a lot of really cool feedback. And so we decided to offer it again today based on today's focus topics. And so if you want to jump into room 5, you can connect with Heather and Tiffany as they loosely facilitate a community share on different ideas that you might have, insights, some considerations, maybe sharing of some resources that folks are using, etc. So I will thank you, Leslie, for dropping those in the chat. Shout out to our CAN and ASAP team who have been behind the scenes doing all the things to make this work. We certainly couldn't do this without all of our tech and all of our teamwork behind the scenes. So again, shout out to the CAN and ASAP crew. So if you're unfamiliar with how to join a breakout room, you can, when the breakout rooms are open, you can click on the breakout room icon in your Zoom toolbar, and then you'll be able to see all of the breakout rooms here and select the one that you would like to join. If you join one and you're like, not really my jam, I'm going to hop into another one, our feelings won't get hurt, and you can certainly jump into another room if that is what meets your needs. So feel free to hop in and out of rooms if that's helpful. If you're unable to join via this breakout option way, you can rename yourself using the rename by the 3 dots in your top right corner to rename yourself with the room that you would like to go to, and our team will get you there. Or you can just hang out and come off mute and let us know what room you would like to go to, and we'll drop you in there. Friendly reminder, our our Zoom meeting for today will close in the breakout rooms. I know it's that awkward mid-conversation where like everything just goes away. I try my best to send reminders via the breakout messaging system. And so we will close the Zoom at 12 o'clock, promptly at 12. And so hopefully that will give you enough time to have conversations in your breakouts. All right, so I'm going to go to the last slide here. It's also in the chat. I'm opening up breakout rooms now, and hoping you all have a great time. Thanks again for joining, and thank you so much for your feedback. I hope you have a great rest of the week. And breakout rooms are open.